So The Last of Us Part 2 Remaster is only around a week away now, and I'm getting very, very excited to replay the game, as well as trying out the new No Return mode. And so today I wanted to go over the 5 biggest changes that are coming to The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. Now, the first one is really interesting, and this is something I'm actually very keen for. This is the lost levels that are being added. Now, it seems like we're going to be getting a bunch of extra missions that weren't in the first game. From what I've heard, there are 3 that they're adding, and this is kind of making this almost like the director's cut of the game. Now, as of right now, I'm unsure if they are actually selectable missions or if you do have to play the entire game to come across them. From what I have heard though, they will be selectable simply because they apparently aren't actually finished yet. They've actually left them in their initial state. They've obviously tidied them up so that they are playable, but they've left them essentially unfinished, and then they've added the director's commentary, that being Neil Druckmann. And I believe there are actually commentaries in there as well from the actual cast of the game. And they have actually left these in here to be a bit of an inside look into what can happen when it comes to game development. They've left them unfinished for a reason, and we'll have to wait and actually play them to see what that reason is. And so these are not technically going to be like canon events of the game, I believe. They are essentially just a couple of missions that we're going to get to play that aren't fully fleshed out, but they are going to be still very interesting to see. And I dare say they're not going to be like terrible, because that does sound pretty bad saying that they're still unfinished. I dare say they're going to be very fun. I just believe when they say unfinished, they've done that for actual like learning or teaching reasons, to show us a bit more of the inside look as to what goes on in game development. Now, next up is by far the most notable of all, and this is easily what I'm the most excited for. This is the new roguelike mode called No Return that is going to be coming to the remaster. Now, don't worry, I've got a full video breaking this down in just a few days, going through everything you need to know about it, everything that we've learned in all of the trailers and stuff like that. But for a quick, I guess, summary for this video as to what this is going to be, it is essentially a permadeath mode that has multiple different stages you need to survive. And by permadeath, that means if you die, the whole thing starts over. So it's going to be pretty insane. If you guys have played a game like Hades, you'll know what a roguelike mode is. And even the recent God of War DLC actually had its own roguelike mode as well. So it has become a bit of a hit in the, the big single player games as of late. And I have no doubt in my mind that The Last of Us 1 is going to be absolutely perfect for it. It does just seem like the perfect game to have more of a survival type mode embedded in it. Now, in each stage as well, it isn't just as simple as like these are, little missions you got to do and then you get to the end and get on to the next one. Each of these does actually have a different task. So they're not just survival. You do actually have to do different things depending on which stage you're in. So for example, some of the stages may actually be literally just surviving. You may just have to survive until all of the waves are done. Some of them are extraction type things where you'll have to actually extract a character and get them to safety. There are others where there's an actual location you have to defend. So waves of, infected will be coming after you and you have to hold them off, pretty much, holding down the fort. And then there are even ones where you have to stay stealthy the entire time. And if you get spotted, the game is over. So there's going to be a lot of different stuff to do in these. There are new skills and stuff that you can unlock on the way, as well as new weapons. And probably the most interesting, and at least the most exciting for me anyway, is the fact that unlike in the main story where you're obviously locked to whichever character they want us to play as, in this mode you can actually choose between a bunch of different characters. A lot of characters we know and love, like obviously Joel and Ellie. There is also characters like Tommy. We can play as Abby, and also a bunch of characters that in the game were more cameos or more side characters, but we can still actually play as them in this. And all of them have a different skill set, different, strengths and weaknesses. And it's going to mean that playing as different characters is actually going to feel very, very different. So there should be a fair amount of replayability in this, and I'm very keen for that. Now, before we go any further, if you guys are enjoying the video and you are keen on more content surrounding The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, be sure to hit that subscribe button. There is plenty of content on the way, so make sure you don't miss out. Now, next on the list, we have something that is definitely pretty cool to see, and this is the addition of some extra skins throughout the game. Now, this is obviously nothing major in the grand scheme of things. It's not really going to change anything gameplay related, but it is still cool for those of us who do enjoy the customization side of it. And by the looks of some of the stuff that we have seen throughout the trailers, there is going to be some pretty damn awesome customization. It's not just going to be slight changes. We have, for example, seen Ellie wearing the astronaut suit that she wears in a certain moment throughout the story, and it's going to be pretty cool to see what they've come up with for the different customizations and skins scenes in The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. Now, the next biggest change for me is to do with the graphics, and this is essentially a bunch of graphical enhancements, which we obviously expect to see when it is a remaster, especially seeing as the fact that the game actually only came out about 3 or 4 years ago, and therefore a lot of people are kind of confused as to why they are remastering it when it actually already looked really good in 2020. Well, the remaster will now have native 4K if you play it in the fidelity mode. It'll then have 1440p, which is upscaled to 4K if you play it in performance mode, and that is still going to look a fair bit better than the PS4 version, which was obviously in 1080p. I believe the Pro did allow for 1440p, but I believe that was upscaled. And so the game is definitely going to look a little bit crisper than it did in the PS4 version. Now, the other thing with the PS4 was that was locked to 30 frames per second. However, for this one, they've unlocked the frame rate apparently, meaning if your TV or monitor has a variable refresh rate, then you will potentially be able to get over 60 FPS depending on whether the game actually performs up to that standard or not. Because we all know, based off of the last few years of gaming, it is often the case that games don't really perform as well as they maybe should. And so it's going to be interesting to see if we can get above 60 FPS, but they have mentioned it there, so it seems as though they are pretty confident that is going to be the case. Now, last but not least, we have, I guess, some smaller changes, but they are still very cool to see nonetheless. The first one being a speedrun mode that is similar to the Last of Us Part 1 remake, where they actually added that as well. It is unlocked once you finish the game, and it comes with an in-game timer and everything for speedrunning. And obviously the point of that mode is to finish the game as fast as you possibly can. That is going to be very fun to play for a lot of people who do enjoy speedrunning. And then on top of that, they've also got a bit of a bonus one here. This is obviously very small, but there is also going to be guitar free play. I've seen a lot of people complaining about that, kind of saying, what is the point? And I do agree, it is a pretty small thing. It's not going to be something I'm spending a lot of time on. It is a bit more of a gimmick, if anything, but it is going to be a fun addition nonetheless. I'm sure if you guys have played the original, you'll know there are multiple points throughout the story where you can actually play the guitar, and it is kind of a part of the story. However, now apparently we're going to be able to just pull out a guitar at any point and just essentially sit there playing the guitar. So that is going to be pretty fun to do. How long and how enjoyable it is for a long period of time, I'm not too sure, but it is a cool addition nonetheless. But anyway, guys, those are 5 of the biggest changes coming to The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. Let me know in the comments whether you are keen on the remaster or not. I've seen a lot of, I guess, divisive discussions out there talking about whether or not this remaster is actually worth it or not. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.